Bullion here. Boy oh boy, it has been a pretty cool week for precious metals. Silver in particular has seen some pretty big gains, over 20% increases in price, which is pretty mental for 1 week. So there's a lot going on in the world of precious metals, not only silver, gold's also going up and up and up as well. And in today's video, I want to give a bit of an overview of my critical thinking, my analysis, my rambling, my opinions and views on silver 2020, what's happened, where it might go, what could potentially happen with these prices, things to think about, and things to help you guys make an informed decision about what you might want to do with your hard-earned cash and or with your silver. It's important to remember though, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm just a dude who likes to talk about shiny things here on YouTube. So with that in mind, financial responsibility, individual financial responsibility is critical. It is probably the single most important skill that you can employ, certainly in this turbulent market. And I say turbulent because you might be thinking, well, backyard bullion, surely if prices are going up and up and up, if silver's increased by 20% in a single week, that's not turbulent, that's a bull market. That is something to celebrate. That is something to rush out and back the truck up before it goes up into the hundreds. Yes and no. I do think that we're going to see more rises. I think that we've breached a bunch of different resistance points for the metal in this last week, which are unprecedented, I think, in the short term. I don't think anybody really expected quite as high of these sort of price hikes as we've seen. But where it will end up, I don't know. I've always been a proponent on my channel here that $100 an ounce silver is a very unlikely scenario without some significant devaluation of currency and inflation within Western countries, specifically the US, UK, Europe. I just can't see $100 an ounce silver happening, and that seems like it could be a bit of a hindsight moment if in a year's time we're at $100 an ounce silver. But what is plain to see is that we have just gone through a 4 or 5, 6 year period of really cheap silver, and to a certain extent gold as well, because gold, I mean, I've got some gold on here on the table to talk about in a moment, but silver especially it's never seemed so cheap as it was 2 years ago, a year ago, 2015, late 2015, I bought my first pieces of silver. I remember spot price was £10 an ounce, which at the time was about $14 an ounce. That's cheap. That is cheap as chips. And it is an interesting, there's like the fear of missing out, FOMO, as it's called. And people now seeing these prices going up and up and up are thinking to themselves, oh, I need to get it now. It's starting to hit the mainstream. You start seeing these news headlines on different news outlets and media outlets saying silver and gold are going up. That's a place that investors are putting their money. And of course, year of craziness that we are going through right now, it does seem like a pretty good idea to have some safe haven assets. Now, in terms of how that affects the individual stacker, it's all very well for big investment funds to start hedging their investments and having some precious metals there for liquidity. Liquidity is a really important thing, and we've seen a big pullback this year that happened at the outset of the kind of global lockdowns, when really the brown stuff hit the fan in terms of that sort of lockdown period. Silver just collapsed. It went down by like 25-30%, and it was that margin call, it was that liquidity, it was the people who needed the funds that needed the money now, they sold it. Could that happen again, I think, is the most important question to ask. Of course, we have moved on now, 4 or 5 months in from all of these lockdowns, and the world is trying its hardest to get back to normal. But the sad state of the matter is that we are not going to see a normal world again for a considerable amount of time. There are going to be secondary waves, there are going to be secondary spikes. We're already seeing that in the US, if one can even call it a secondary spike. It's kind of a continuation of the first spike, really. And continued lockdowns, new lockdowns will happen, businesses will continue to suffer. As a consequence, the governments around the world that are trying to prop up economies and support employees and workers and their just general population, their workforce, there is only a finite amount that those organisations, those governments can do. Here in the United Kingdom, I think I want to sort of relate it back to home where I'm based. We have government-backed employment, so the furlough scheme for those businesses that want to keep employees on payrolls. That's now siphoning out. They are rolling out increased amounts of burden for the employers in terms of how much cash they need to contribute to the furloughed salary. And then that ends, I think, in October completely. And there is an incentive scheme for employers to retain staff into January where they can get a £1,000 bonus per employee. But to get that £1,000 bonus, they have to spend a minimum of nearly £2,000 on that employee's salary. So all of this parachute money, all of this government spending is going to end at some point. It must end at some point. And when it does, there will be a huge, huge spike in unemployment. There will be a huge spike in the demand on just the government support, and it won't necessarily be there. So there's going to be a lot of hard times ahead. What happens in hard times? Traditionally, safe haven assets rise. So there could well be some increase in that metal prices. However, because so many companies around the world that use silver primarily as an industrial metal are looking to try and ramp up and get back to this normal way of life, electronics companies, Samsung, Apple, all of these, they might, and have been in fact, opening up again and starting to manufacture, but that might close down. That might stop again. There might be secondary lockdowns, which will have potentially another impact on the metal markets. Now, one of the issues that we've all been facing as silver buyers in this post-lockdown world is the bullion premiums, the premiums that dealers put on these metals. And back when silver prices were down in the teens for dollars, and you was looking at 10, 11 pounds an ounce, you could still not buy an ounce of silver for less than 15, 16, 17 pounds an ounce from a dealer. And now we're seeing spot prices in the UK. I mean, this is filmed on a Monday morning where spot price in the UK at the moment is £18.80 an ounce. £18.80 an ounce is mad. And you can't buy an ounce of silver from a dealer for less than £22 at the moment. So there's still really high premiums on this stuff. It's very hard to know what's going to happen into the future. And one thing that I've always said on my channel is that you need to understand that all the commentaries out there that you might see from myself or other big YouTubers, it's all a bit of conjecture. It really is all conjecture, and it is important to understand that we don't know as much as the next guy. All we can really look at is what's happening in the world, what could potentially happen going forwards. Now, where does that leave silver purchasing for myself and perhaps loads of others out there who are starting to see... It's a good job these are old eagles that I'm not bothered about throwing it all over the place. What does that mean in terms of where we want to go with metals into the rest of the year? There's probably a lot of people out there who are starting to discover metals. I know from my YouTube analytics this last 4 or 5 months, we've seen a huge increase in the number of views and people subscribing to metal channels. And, there are a lot of people who are, hearing about metals on the general sort of media train, and they're thinking, now is the time, now is the time. So, long term, where do we see this going? And for me, I do think there is still benefit to owning physical silver. However, as I have been saying this entire period of time that we've been experiencing, I feel like maybe I'm just a bit spoiled from all of these years of very low prices, and maybe I'm going to have to adjust to the new norm of silver being a little bit more expensive than it used to be. But certainly I do feel like there will be a buying opportunity in the next couple of months where prices will be a little lower or premiums will be a little lower. So whether or not the spot price completely drops or whether or not the dealer's premiums completely drop, I do think that there are better prices as a consumer to be had. That said, it doesn't mean that you should not rush out and buy some silver right now. I do think that there is a long-term position that is quite important for a lot of people to have in precious metals, and more specifically, potentially silver. I think silver's got a long way to go in terms of returns. What I think has been most interesting is that the gold to silver ratio has come back down in the favour of gold again. So, at one point it was better to buy your silver because the gold to silver ratio was over 100 to 1, 120 to 1 I think it was at one point. So it's obviously more logical to buy silver, you get more metal for your money. Now, of course, we're seeing it's coming back down, but gold has held its value, which is the important thing. There was one of two things that was always going to happen between silver and gold. It was either going to be that the gold price went down very considerably or the silver price went up really considerably. Now, we've seen that the gold price has held. In fact, it's gone up as well this last week by nearly £100 an ounce, which is quite a lot. So where will gold prices go in the future? I do think now we are seeing new norms. I think we have to come to adjust to these new normal sort of price points in gold and silver. But gold specifically, I think now has solidified its position as the king of these metals. I do think that gold will not go much lower again. There'll be, of course, lows. There will be ups and downs. That's the nature of these markets, and it is inevitable that there will be buying opportunities for both metals at lower prices than there are right now. But the general trend, I think, is to hold. It has gone through its hard times, it's gone through its challenges, and it's now come out the other end, and it's looking golden. It really is. And it's a bit of a shame in a way that gold has kind of kept up where it was, because I'm a big buyer of gold. I prefer gold to silver over the long haul as an investment. Any silver that I buy tends to be a means to accumulate more gold in the future, whether that's playing the ratio game or whether it's just simply looking to convert premiums on coins. These are not premium coins, these are just bog standard eagles, which will be, I don't know, one day they'll be sold for spot price or they will be melted down into hand-poured silver that I make. There are a multitude of opportunities out there for myself to liquidate silver and convert it into gold, which is my preference for the long term. That said, we could see some very big gains in silver. I have always said here on my channel that I don't think a shoot the moon scenario is likely, and we are seeing some big gains in silver right now, but please just have a think. Just have a think about it. What has happened in the last couple of weeks, and this last week more specifically, is I think an evening out of the actual price of silver. Back when spot prices were lower, the premium on this stuff was high. It was higher than it was now, and you could not buy an ounce of silver for, when prices were around £12 an ounce, you could not buy silver for less than about £19 an ounce. Spot price is now £19 an ounce. That is, I think, a reflection of where the price points, the buying points were, and it's not necessarily an indication of something big to come and hundreds of dollars an ounce of silver. So please, whatever you do, don't go and put all of your money into silver. It should form a small part of any portfolio rather than the entirety of a portfolio. I think what we've seen in this last couple of weeks is an evening out of that price point, of that value point. Doesn't mean that it's not going to continue to rise over the course of the coming months. There are a lot of things still to happen in 2020 that we have not seen, and it is really important to understand that nobody can predict the future. I want to reiterate that message that I put right at the start of this video. We are going to see some big events in this world that will have an impact on precious metals. There's going to be an election in the US, there's the COVID situation, there's going to be secondary lockdowns, secondary spikes, secondary waves. Unfortunately, around the world we seem to, there's this isolationist mentality coming in. Countries are less willing to go out and help the other nations of the world, and you can completely understand why. You need to take care of home before you look after everywhere else. But it is such a tough year ahead, and it's going to be even more so going forward into the rest of the year and potentially into 2021. I haven't even touched on all of the mass amounts of spending that governments are ploughing into their own economies to try and save things, because ultimately employees and people are the ones that are going to suffer from this. Yes, there are going to be companies and corporations which will obviously have to shut up shop, probably for good in some cases, and I know there's a lot of businesses out there which are still struggling and will continue to struggle, but ultimately the people that are affected the most are the people who work and the people who go out and earn money, who then won't be able to and are going to struggle. So it is a really difficult rest of 2020 ahead, and going forward into 2021 it's going to be a really interesting year to see what happens. The long-term outlook is going to be recession, and traditionally in recessions we see increases in prices. So I think the concluding message of today's analysis and ramble and video is that ultimately, with the amount of brown stuff hitting the fan in the world right now, and stuff still to come. And we haven't even talked about really the impacts of the China-America trade wars and various other, there's the European Union, there's Brexit. We haven't even talked about Brexit, potential lack of trade agreements there. There's just going to be a lot of stuff that's going on. The sheer volume of monetary support and printing that's going on in the world as well is going to have profound effects for, in my opinion, a decade or more. And who knows where things are going to be in the future. Now, if I am completely wrong and you think I am completely wrong, please tell me. I'd love to know. All I ask is you do so in a respectful way. I'm not here to be called names or anything down in the comment section, but I will engage with fun and healthy debates with people who have views to share. That's why I make these videos. I think it's really important, and I think a lot of people get a lot of benefit from these kind of discussions. So please feel free to comment down below in that comment section with your thoughts on precious metal prices, silver prices. Are you buying? Are you new to metals? Are you going to buy loads? Are you backing up the truck? Or are you taking a little bit more of a cautious approach to things like I am? I think for me it's been an interesting year to kind of reflect on what's currently in the stack and how lucky and important it is to hold on to that stuff rather than going and backing the truck up as we ride this wave up. Maybe I'm going to be wrong. Maybe I will be proved wrong and there will be hundreds of pounds and dollars an ounce worth of silver, and I will regret not buying more. That said, I do have lots of precious metals, so if in the event that it happens, I'm protected. My wealth is protected. That is the most important thing. So let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. If you enjoyed today's video, please put a thumbs up on it and share it around on your social media. That would be very helpful for everything that we do here on the channel. If you want to support the channel out, then please check out our merch. There's links down below to t-shirts. Otherwise, you can get in touch via my email, which is byb@backyardbullion.com, for any inquiries around our hand-poured silver. Otherwise, that's it. Have a fantastic week ahead. Thank you for watching, and please make sure that you like, share, comment, and subscribe for more.